Hi guys, welcome to the channel of Love Study Group. We are reading How to Raise Your Own Salary by Napoleon Hill. We are on chapter 6, Use Organised Individual Endeavour. The quote that we left on was, make yourself indispensable in your job and see how quickly you are pushed out of it and into a better one. Okay, chapter 6, Use Organised Individual Endeavour. This chapter begins the analysis of one of the distinguishing features of all successful leaders. This quality is also a distinguishing feature of Americanism, so important that it has been guaranteed to every American citizen in the Constitution of the United States. It is the privilege of individual initiative, a quality that is no less essential in the achievement of personal success than that of definiteness of purpose. Without doubt, the privilege of exercising one's own initiative is the very last that any ambitious American would wish to give up, for it is obvious that without this privilege, noteworthy achievement is an impossibility in any calling. We, the people of the United States, have set the whole world a worthy example in the exercise of our personal initiative, in the field of industry and commerce, and in the professions. To this one quality, more perhaps than to any other, we owe our right to claim this to be the richest and freest country of the world. The subject of organised individual endeavour, as presented in this chapter, describes the method by which an individual may make purposeful and profitable use of his right to and responsibility for the exercise of personal initiative. No privilege is of benefit if one sleeps upon it. No privilege can be of great benefit to anyone unless it is organised into a definite plan and put into action. Andrew Carnegie describes the methods through which personal initiative can be organised and used for the attainment of definite ends. Hill. You have stated, Mr. Carnegie, that organised individual endeavour is the sixth of the 17 principles of individual achievement. Will you analyse this principle in its relationship to personal achievement? Carnegie. Very well. Let us begin by saying that personal initiative may be likened to the steam in the boiler in this respect. It is the power through which one's plans, aims, and purposes are put into action. It is the antithesis of one of the worst of all human traits, procrastination. Successful men are known always as men of action. There can be no action without the exercise of one's initiative. There are two forms of action, namely, one, that which one indulges in from the force of necessity, and number two, that which one exercises out of choice, on his own free will. Leadership grows out of the latter. It comes as a result of action in which one engages in response to his own motives and desires. Hill, would you say that the right of individual initiative is among the greatest of the privileges we enjoy as citizens of the United States? Carnegie. It is not merely among the greatest, it is the greatest. This privilege was considered of such great importance that it was specifically guaranteed in the Constitution to every citizen of the United States. The privilege of exercising one's personal initiative is of such great importance that every well-managed business recognises and properly rewards individuals who show aptitude in the use of their own initiative for the betterment of the business. It is through the exercise of personal initiative that the most humble worker may become an indispensable factor in any business. It is through the exercise of this privilege that the humblest day labourer may become the owner of the business in which he works, or raise himself to the ownership of a business of his own. Hill. From what you say, I take it that you believe the privilege of acting on one's own initiative is a stepping stone of major importance in all individual achievement. Carnegie. I have never known of anyone achieving outstanding success without acting on his own initiative. Under our form of government and our industrial system, every man is rewarded according to the service he renders through his own initiative. No one is forced to do anything against his will. But the American way of life is such that it encourages everyone to promote himself through his own efforts into whatever station in life he wishes. Those who organise their efforts naturally get ahead faster than those who drift without definite aim or purpose. Hill. There must be certain definite characteristics of leadership which the more successful leaders develop and apply. Will you give me a catalogue of such traits as you believe to be essential for leadership? Carnegie. From my own experience with men, I have observed that successful leaders in all walks of life exemplify one or more of 30 or more traits of leadership, and in some instances, they possess all of these traits. Number 1. The adoption of a definite major purpose and a definite plan for attaining it. Number 2. The choice of a motive adequate to inspire continuous action in pursuit of the object of one's major purpose. Nothing great is ever achieved without a definite motive. Number 3. A mastermind alliance through which to acquire the necessary power for noteworthy achievement. That which one man can accomplish by his own efforts is negligible, confined in the main to the acquisition of the bare necessities of life. Great achievement always is the result of coordination of minds working toward a definite end. Number 4. Self-reliance in proportion to the nature and scope of one's major purpose. No one can go very far without relying largely upon his own efforts, his own initiative, and his own judgment. Number 5. Self-discipline sufficient to give one mastery over both the head and the heart. The man who cannot or will not control himself never can control others. There are no exceptions to this rule. This is so important that it should probably have headed the entire list of the essentials of leadership. Number 6. Persistence based on a will to win. Most men are good starters but poor finishers. The man who gives up at the first signs of opposition never goes very far in any undertaking. Number 7. A well-developed faculty of imagination. Able leaders must be eternally seeking new and better ways of doing things. They must be on the lookout for new ideas and new opportunities to attain the object of their labours. The man who trails along in the old path, doing things merely because others have done them, without looking for methods of improvement, never becomes a great leader. Number 8. The habit of making definite and prompt decisions at all times. The man who cannot or will not make up his own mind has little opportunity to induce others to follow him. Number 9. The habit of basing opinions on known facts instead of relying upon guesswork or hearsay evidence. Able leaders take nothing for granted without a sound reason. They make it their business to get at the facts before forming judgments, but they move promptly and definitely. Number 10. The capacity to generate enthusiasm at will and direct it to a definite end. Uncontrolled enthusiasm may be as detrimental as no enthusiasm. Moreover, enthusiasm is contagious, as is also lack of enthusiasm. Followers and subordinates take on the enthusiasm of their leader. Number 11. A keen sense of fairness and justice under all circumstances. The habit of playing favourites is destructive to leadership. Men respond best to those who deal with them justly, and especially where they are dealt with fairly by men in higher positions or authority. Number 12. Tolerance, an open mind on all subjects at all times. The man with a closed mind does not inspire the confidence of his associates. Without confidence, great leadership is an impossibility. Number 13. The habit of going the extra mile, doing more than one is paid for and doing it with a positive, agreeable mental attitude. This habit on the part of a leader inspires unselfishness on the part of his followers or subordinates. I have never known an able leader in business or industry who did not endeavour at all times to render more service than any man under his authority. Number 14, tactfulness and a knee sense of diplomacy, both in spirit and in deed. In a free democracy such as ours, men do not take kindly to brusqueness in their relationships with others. Number 15, the habit of listening much and talking less. Most people talk too much and say too little. The leader who knows his business knows the value of hearing other men's views. Perhaps we are equipped with 2 ears, 2 eyes, and only 1 tongue, that we may hear and see twice as much as we speak. Number 16, an observing nature, the habit of noting small details. All business is a composite of details. The man who does not become familiar with all the details of his work for which he and his subordinates are responsible will not be a successful leader. Moreover, a knowledge of small details is essential for promotion. Number 17, determination. Recognition of the fact that temporary defeat need not be accepted as a permanent failure. All men occasionally meet with defeat in one form or another. The successful leader learns from defeat, but he never uses it as an excuse for not trying again. The ability to accept and carry responsibilities is among the more profitable of accomplishments. It is the major need of all industry and business. It pays higher dividends when one assumes responsibility without being required to do so. Number 18, the capacity to stand criticism without resentment. The man who flares up with resentment when his work is criticised will never become a successful leader. Real leaders can take it, and they make it their business to do so. Bigness overlooks the smallness of criticism and carries on. Number 19, temperance in eating, drinking, and all social habits. The man who has no control over his appetites will have very little control over other people. Number 20, loyalty to all to whom loyalty is due. Loyalty begins with loyalty to oneself. It extends to one's associates in business. Disloyalty breeds contempt. No one can succeed who bites the hand that feeds him. 21, frankness with those who have a right to it. Subterfuge, which misleads, is a poor crutch to lean upon, and it is one that able leaders do not use. 22, familiarity with the 9 basic motives which actuate men. Already discussed in Lesson 2, these motives are relisted here for review. Emotion of love, emotion of sex, desire for financial gain, desire for self-preservation, desire for freedom of body and mind, desire for self-expression, desire for perpetuation of life after death, emotion of anger and emotion of fear. The man who does not understand the natural motives to which men respond will not be a successful leader. Number 23, sufficient attractiveness of personality to induce voluntary cooperation from others. See the list of the factors of attractive personality in Lesson 3. Sound leadership is based upon effective salesmanship, the ability to be sympathetic and to make oneself pleasing to others. Number 24, the capacity to concentrate full attention on one subject at a time. The jack of all trades is seldom good at any. Concentrated effort gives one power that can be attained in no other way. 25, the habit of learning from mistakes, one's own, and the mistakes of others. Number 26, a willingness to accept the full responsibility of the mistake of one's subordinates without trying to pass the buck. Nothing destroys one's capacity of leadership quicker than the habit of shifting responsibilities to others. Number 27, the habit of adequately recognising the merits of others, especially when they have done exceptionally good work. Men will often work harder for friendly recognition of their merits than they will for money alone. The successful leader goes out of his way to give credit to his subordinates. A pat on the back denotes confidence. Number 28, the habit of applying the golden rule principle in all human relationships. The Sermon on the Mount remains a classic for all time as a sound rule of human relationship. It inspires cooperation that can be had in no other way. Number 29, a positive mental attitude at all times. No one likes a grouchy, sceptical person who seems to be at outs with the world in general. Such a man will never become an able leader. Number 30, the habit of assuming full responsibility for each and every task one undertakes, regardless of who actually does the work. Perhaps this quality of leadership should have headed the entire list, and it would have if the qualities of successful leadership had been listed in the order of their importance. And number 31, a keen sense of values. The ability to evaluate in the light of sound judgment without being guided by emotional factors. The habit of putting things first. All these qualities of leadership are capable of development and application by any person of average intelligence. Hill, from your analysis of the qualities of leadership, it appears that successful leadership is largely a state of mind or mental attitude. Carnegie, leadership is not entirely a question of the proper mental attitude, although that is an important factor. The successful leader must possess definite knowledge of his life's purpose and work. Men do not like to follow a leader who obviously knows less about his job than they do. Hill, are all men capable of becoming successful leaders? Carnegie, not by any means. You will be surprised to know how few men there are who aspire to become leaders. Most men do not wish to assume the responsibilities of leadership. Others lack the ambition to put forth the extra effort that must go into successful leadership. Hill, what is the best method for inspiring men to become leaders in their chosen occupation? Carnegie, as I have already stated, men do things because of a motive. Leadership can best be inspired by planting in a man's mind a definite motive that forces him to acquire the qualities of leadership. The profit motive is one of the most popular. When men make up their minds to acquire wealth or attain success, they usually begin to exercise their privilege of personal initiative along lines that develop leadership. Hill, then you believe it would be inadvisable to discourage the desire for personal wealth? Carnegie, let me answer you in this way. This country is recognised the world over as having more leaders in industry and business than any other nation. These leaders developed their qualities of leadership in response to their desire for wealth. Obviously, anything which kills off this desire for wealth. Sorry, I've missed out. Obviously, anything that kills off this desire would strike at the very roots of our national resources, a major portion of which consists of the creative ability of the men who manage industry. Hill, would you say that the desire for private riches is the only motive that has inspired so many Americans to develop the qualities of leadership? Carnegie, not at all. We have many able leaders in America whose major motive is that of building and creating. The pride of personal achievement is a strong factor in the American way of life. Beyond the point at which a man acquires economic security, he begins to become motivated largely by his pride of achievement. One man can eat only one meal at a time, wear one suit of clothes at a time, and sleep in one bed. After he acquires security in connection with these necessities, he begins to think in terms of desire for public acclaim. He wishes to become recognised as a successful person. There may be a few men with the hoarding instincts of the miser, but a majority of the successful men of America think in terms of the use they can give money instead of endeavouring to accumulate money for the sake of having it. It has been this desire for self-expression through the use of money that has made America the great industrial nation that it is. Hill. I take it then that the possession of great riches by one individual may be either a blessing or a curse, according to the use he makes of his riches. Carnegie. That is my belief precisely. Take John D. Rockefeller as an example. He has accumulated a vast fortune, but every dollar of it is at work, developing, extending, expanding some form of useful industrial business or philanthropic service. Through the use of his money, he provides employment to many thousands of men, but it serves a still higher purpose. Through the Rockefeller Foundation, the Rockefeller fortune is serving mankind in scores of ways that have nothing whatsoever to do with further profits for Mr. Rockefeller. His fortune is fighting disease and helping to suppress the enemies of mankind in other ways. It is helping to uncover useful knowledge through scientific research, the benefits of which will extend to generations yet unborn. Hill. Then you would say that the people of America are better off because of the manner in which Mr. Rockefeller has exercised his personal initiative in the accumulation of riches. Carnegie. Not only the people of the United States, but the people of the entire world are benefiting by his initiative and his acquisitive spirit. What this country needs is not fewer men like Mr. Rockefeller, but more of his type. Take James J. Hill as another example. Through his personal initiative, he built the great transcontinental railroad system that opened up millions of acres of unused lands and brought the Atlantic and the Pacific Oceans within easy, accessible proximity to each other. It would be difficult to estimate the wealth which, by the exercise of his personal initiative, this one man has added to the riches of America. It probably amounts to billions of dollars. The private fortune he accumulated for his services is as nothing compared to the wealth his activities added to the nation as a whole. Hill. You might include yourself in that category also, Mr. Carnegie. Would you mind estimating the wealth your own personal initiative has added to the country? Carnegie. I much prefer to speak of the achievements of others who have done more than I, but if you insist on an answer, let me call your attention to the impetus that has been given to the building of skyscrapers since my associates uncovered more economical and better methods of producing steel. You know, of course, that the modern skyscraper would be an impossibility without the use of the steel frame. The skyscraper would also be an economic impossibility if steel were as expensive as it was when I entered the business of manufacturing steel. We have given the country a better product than any it knew before we entered the business of making steel, and we have brought prices down to where steel can be substituted for the less satisfactory products of wood and other metals of less durability. When I first entered the steel business, steel, such as it was, sold for around $130 per tonne. We brought it down to around $20 per tonne. Moreover, we so improved the quality that steel now serves scores of uses for which it was not suited until we improved it. Hill. Was your major motive that of making money, Mr. Carnegie? Carnegie. No, my major motive always has been that of making men more useful to themselves and to others. As you may have heard, I have had the privilege of making millionaires of more than 40 men, most of them men who began working with me as ordinary labourers. But the money these men accumulated is not the important thing I wish to stress. In helping them to accumulate money, I help them to become a great asset to this nation. By inspiring them to exercise their own initiative, I started them to rendering useful service that has contributed richly to the development of the great industrial system of America. You see, therefore, that these men became more than owners of riches. They become intelligent users of riches, and as such they provided employment for many thousands of men. As I have already mentioned, wealth consists in material things and human experience properly mixed. The more important part of the mixture is brains, experience, personal initiative, the desire to build and create. Without these qualities, money would be useless. Understand this truth, and you will have a better knowledge of the nature of our American riches. We are a rich nation because we have a great number of pioneers whose pride of personal achievement has enticed them to exercise their right of individual initiative in all forms of business and industrial activity. These men may think they were motivated by the desire for personal riches, but the truth is that they were influenced by the much greater desire for personal achievement. Regardless of the motives by which they were actuated, they have helped to convert a vast wilderness known formerly as the land of the Indians into the world's richest and most progressive nation. This could not have been accomplished without the free, voluntary exercise of the personal initiative of the men who did the job. And I'm going to leave reading that chapter there, and we shall catch up soon with part 2 of chapter 6, Use Organised Individual Endeavour. Okay guys, so until then, take care. Much love. Bye for now.